Azerbaijan is increasingly finding itself at the center of major diplomatic conversations. Following the recent visit of President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelenskyy to Azerbaijan and with the visit of the Prime Minister of the Czech Republic, Baku is drawing growing international attention at a time of war in Eastern Europe, energy uncertainty due to the instability in the Middle East, and renewed geopolitical competition. As discussions continue on a new bilateral agreement, we ask, is Azerbaijan becoming more important for Europe not only as a reliable energy partner, but also as a diplomatic bridge and strategic regional player? You're watching Inside Politics. I'm Anastasia Lavrina, and now I'm joined by Glenn Howard, President and Chairman of Saratoga Foundation from Washington, D.C., United States. Mr. Howard, hello and welcome to Inside Politics.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us today. Let me start with the latest development in the South Caucasus, particularly in Azerbaijan. The visit of Prime Minister of the Czech Republic to Azerbaijan was indeed highly symbolic. He described Azerbaijan as a strategic partner for the Czech Republic. At a time of war in Eastern Europe and growing uncertainty across global markets, what message does this visit send about Azerbaijan's rising importance in European strategic thinking?
Well, I think this has been part of a trend that's been occurring in Europe, where Azerbaijan is receiving increased attention that has really risen in the past 6 months, and most recently, the ongoing Gulf War. The third Gulf War the United States is involved in with Israel against Iran has led to a kind of a change in the geopolitical calibration of Europe. They clearly cannot get oil out of the Persian Gulf, and so they don't know how long the war is going to go on. It's already now entered 60 days. And so it's Azerbaijan and the Caucasus that's really assuming increased strategic importance. And we're starting to see this with the visit of Meloni. She's coming to Azerbaijan on May 5th for her state visit. It's going to be very important. There's going to be a meeting in Yerevan of the European Union, as well as part of the partnership format. So increasingly, the Caucasus has been basically a increased focal point of their attention.
Well, that's very interesting. And during the talks, President Aliyev also noted that Azerbaijan already exports natural gas to countries neighboring the Czech Republic and was recognized by the European Union as a reliable partner. So is Azerbaijan gradually becoming indispensable to Europe's long-term energy security strategy?
There's no doubt about that. The Russian gas exports to Europe have been suspended. Russia doesn't really look like it's going to be able to re-enter the European market. The United States is exporting a lot of LNG to Europe, but the Azerbaijan's strategic planning that has led to Italy receiving 16% of its gas from Azerbaijan through the Trans-Adriatic pipeline, and then an extension of that network up into Europe, Southeastern Europe, where Serbia, Austria, as well as even Romania and Bulgaria are now becoming key players in this area gas market. And their strategy has expanded so much that at this time of the closure of the Gulf, that it really, you're starting to see this almost frenzy by the Europeans in trying to reach out to Azerbaijan. You've seen it with the Zelenskyy visit this weekend to Azerbaijan. You see cooperation between Azerbaijan and Ukraine, cooperation with Serbia, where Azerbaijan is now trying to export gas to Serbia. So the entire geopolitics of the Caucasus, with Azerbaijan playing a very central role in that, is very, very critically important. And I think it's only increasing. I mean, Azerbaijan is becoming a net security exporter. It's becoming a provider of wheat to Armenia. It's providing diesel fuel to Armenia. It's improved the strategic environment immensely. And even with Iran, Azerbaijan, even after the March 5th drone attack on Nakhchivan by Iran, even Azerbaijan has carefully calculated its relations with Iran, what I call playing the long game with Iran, and trying to reopen its embassy in Tehran, becoming an intermediary distributor of humanitarian aid to Iran. So if anything, the whole geopolitical environment around Azerbaijan is quite probably the best it's been in quite some time. And that means also the Russia-Azerbaijan rapprochement and the resolution of the Azov plane crash tragedy in December 2024. Azerbaijan has made tremendous relations improved, and Russia has courted Azerbaijan, realizing almost Russia's also panicking because it can't maintain good relations, economic and even strategic relations with Iran without somehow going through Azerbaijan as a transportation corridor. So the north-south dimension of the transport to Iran by Russia, Azerbaijan at the center, looking at the Caucasus, Zangezur, the Trip corridor, all of this is now kind of reaching a real big focal point. And I would say one other thing too, that the problems with Kazakhstan exporting oil through the Caspian Pipeline Consortium through Novorossiysk has reached a very dangerous point for Kazakhstan, to the point where Kazakhstan is now searching and examining ways it can cooperate with Azerbaijan in exporting its oil from Kashagan oil, from Tengiz, not just by tankers through the Caspian to Baku, but also trying to export its energy and searching for the creation of a potentially new energy pipeline across the Caspian. And this is also brings in Turkmenistan and Trans-Caspian gas and the Trans-Caspian pipeline that has now kind of become a topic of new conversation again. And all of this spoke in the wheel is Azerbaijan. It's the energy hub between Europe and Asia, and it's increasingly important now. And it's just this is where we stand now. And a lot of it's become because of the war in the Persian Gulf has caused many European nations to kind of almost panic.
Absolutely, specifically because Azerbaijan is now exporting its gas to 16 countries, 10 of which are members of the European Union. But most of the countries, many countries in Europe actually consider Azerbaijan as a reliable partner far beyond the energy, considering the cooperation in defense sphere, economic integration, and many other aspects. And coming back to what you just mentioned about the recent working visit to Azerbaijan of the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, he held talks with President Ilham Aliyev, which were focused on bilateral cooperation, energy, humanitarian support, and regional issues. Actually, all global media highlighted the importance of this visit, which was far more than symbolic. From your understanding of the situation, how significant was this visit in terms of Azerbaijan's growing diplomatic relevance?
I think I was basically very surprised by the visit. Azerbaijan has been very cautious in terms of how it's reached out to Ukraine. I think that it's been a very pragmatic policy, even though the Russians have targeted the Azerbaijani embassy in Kiev. They've also targeted some of the gas cooperation and energy cooperation that Azerbaijan is conducting with Ukraine, inside Ukraine. So there were, for example, Russian strikes on some facilities in Ukrainian Bessarabia that were part of Azerbaijan's energy cooperation, and this is no accident. And it's also no accident that Zelenskyy met with President Aliyev in Gabala. And I think you and your guests probably know the strategic significance of Gabala and the radar station there. And I think that it's been a meeting in Baku. They met in Gabala. And then President Zelenskyy said that there are Ukrainian drone military technicians providing cooperation with Azerbaijan on the ground inside Azerbaijan. So this is very significant development. It indicates that certainly Azerbaijan is taking the lessons of the drone attack by Iran on Nakhchivan on March 5th, it seems that Azerbaijan is really concerned about the impact of Iranian drones, how it could attack Azerbaijan. And so they're taking the lessons of that and reaching out to Ukraine and saying, we need your cooperation and technical assistance. And as you know, you're following the news that Ukraine is now exporting its drone interceptors to the Persian Gulf countries, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates as part of their increased strategic relationships that are emerging because of the Gulf War. So this is another impact. I think Zelensky's visit to Baku is also, and Kampala, is also a reflection of kind of the changing strategic dynamics from the Gulf War, where the Gulf countries, like Saudi Arabia, the world's leading oil producer, is now recognizing the strategic importance of Ukrainian drones. And Azerbaijan is also playing an important role in that. And it's not being cautious in the sense, I was really surprised that Zelensky came to Baku. I think that this is a recognition that President Aliyev recognizes that Russia is basically in a very difficult position right now. That it's lost its major ally in Venezuela. The United States is courting Belarus, trying to bring Belarus into the European community. I think all around in the strategic neighborhood that the Russians are basically very desperate right now. That's why they resolved this all airplane dispute with the compensation package that they gave Azerbaijan. So I think Azerbaijan, President Aliyev, are feeling more confident now in the regional security mechanisms that they're developing. And I think it's I'm very impressed by it because it's a very calculated strategy that they're undertaking right now with the entire regional neighborhood. And it's extending in all these different directions. And I think it's a very opportune position for Azerbaijan right now.
Well, that's one of the options. But apart from this, during the visit, President Volodymyr Zelenskyy said that Kyiv will be ready to hold trilateral peace talks in Azerbaijan if Russia is ready for diplomacy. Previously, we do remember that such kind of talks were planning to be held in Turkey. And now it's being discussed, not confirmed yet, but still there is a proposal to hold such kind of talks in Azerbaijan, probably in Baku. How important is it that Azerbaijan has now been publicly named as a possible venue for negotiations? And why do you think Ukraine choose Azerbaijan as the place where such kind of talks is possible to be held in the upcoming future?
Well, I think it's very calculated by Azerbaijan, and it's no risk. It's basically, and it's an extension of the effort by Azerbaijan to develop rapprochement with Pashinyan in Armenia. I think it's an extension of what has been happening in terms of the region, embracing the whole idea of peace in the region. And I think that Azerbaijan is taking one further step by offering to host and having Ukraine ask Azerbaijan to host peace talks. It's a very no-risk option for both countries. I mean, it's obviously Turkey has offered to play a role, but Azerbaijan also makes sense because Azerbaijan, and especially now because of its rapprochement, improved relations with Russia, certainly can offer to Moscow that it become a site for peace talks. Now, whether President Putin accepts that or not is a different question, but it certainly implies that Azerbaijan is ready to be a regional partner. It's ready to host talks, not only restore and improve relations with Armenia, but also become an arbiter of peace between Russia and Ukraine. And this is a new welcome development, and I think other countries will probably welcome it as well.
Mr. Howard, you touched actually very sensitive but very interesting point here, mentioning the upcoming forum EU-Armenia to take place in May, which indeed will attract also the global attention as EU is willing to increase its presence in the region of the South Caucasus. Now, Azerbaijan, which is being considered as a possible platform for the future peace talks between Russia and Ukraine. Do you believe that these changes may also affect the negotiation process between Azerbaijan and Armenia? Also, as we see today, the process continue on border delimitation and the future prospects of the peace agreement, which is now remaining on the table.
Well, I think Azerbaijan is in the driver's seat now regarding the whole issue of Armenia. I mean, it's very, Azerbaijan has conducted a very patient diplomatic strategy. And it realizes that every time that Pashinyan, who has the upcoming parliamentary elections, is trying to develop a kind of a multi-directional strategy where it's trying to distance itself from its relations with Russia and reach out to the European Union. Azerbaijan realizes that this is at the expense of relations with Russia. That is why when Pashinyan went to Moscow, Putin was talking about Armenia and their efforts to his request to allow other members of the Armenian opposition to participate in the parliamentary elections, and Pashinyan flatly said, no, it's not going to happen. And so he also rejected the CSTO. So this is another, Azerbaijan is playing a very careful diplomatic strategy. It realizes that Armenia is reaching out to the West at the expense of Russia. There's parliamentary elections coming up. They hope that Pashinyan will be in a much stronger position domestically so that he can change the constitution and finally get this issue about Karabakh behind him. And so the two countries, Azerbaijan and Armenia, can look forward to the future and develop the Zangezur corridor and develop alternative means, but actually, and also, put to rest the whole issue of Armenia and Turkish relations. So I think every piece of the chessboard in the Caucasus and in the region is now moving in a direction that's beneficial to Azerbaijan. And it's being very patient in this whole strategy. Of course, there's going to be worrisome trends about the Europeans all going to Yerevan and the European Union reaching out and wanting to put monitors on the border with Zangezur and trying, but this is all, Azerbaijan, I think, at the end of the day, wants more European involvement in Armenia because it comes at the expense of relations with Russia. It shows that Russia is increasingly isolated and desperate right now. And in many ways, it needs Azerbaijan more than ever because of the Iran war. And as you saw, there were Israeli airstrikes on the Caspian earlier in March at the start of the war. And it certainly showed that Israel was trying to increase its military presence in the Caspian. It's obvious to everybody that the Russians are shipping arms and rearming Iran through the Caspian. So many players in the region have a stake in this ongoing conflict in Iran. And Russia really needs Azerbaijan right now because it fears that it could lose its connections with Iran and desperately needs Azerbaijan. So this is giving Azerbaijan more diplomatic flexibility in terms of how he engages the region. And this is also reflected on the recent Zelenskyy visit to Gabala, because that shows that Azerbaijan feels more confident that it can engage and talk to Ukraine and even to have discussions in military technical cooperation and not fear retaliation by Russia.
We cannot ignore the fact that the interests of global powers are still concentrated in the region of the South Caucasus. And in continuation to the issue of cooperation between the European Union and Azerbaijan, we also know that negotiations on a new European Union-Azerbaijan bilateral agreement have recently resumed, with both sides confirming the next round of talks in Baku in early June. And Now, the current legal framework still rests largely on the 1999 Partnership and Cooperation Agreement, while talks on an upgraded framework began in 2017. What would a modernized agreement realistically change in practical terms for both sides, taking into account all of those geopolitical turbulence and fragmentation we see today in the global world and new reality in the region of the South Caucasus in the post-conflict development?
Well, I think the fact that you have an Italian Prime Minister, Meloni, coming to Baku on May 5th, all of this is what you're mentioning about the European Union, deeper involvement. Again, this activity that we're seeing, this frenzy of activity, of engagement by the European Union with Azerbaijan and in Baku, is all a reflection of the concerns, the long-term trends, and the danger that Europe cannot get any oil or energy out of the Persian Gulf, and that this is permanently affecting kind of the geopolitical chessboard that is accelerating European efforts toward Azerbaijan and the Caspian region. I mean, you have seen greater Japanese involvement and attention to the Gulf. We've recently, Saratoga Foundation published a very deep dive analytical article on Japan and Japan's increased energy security needs by trying to engage Azerbaijan. The oil that's coming out of the Ceyhan terminal from Azerbaijan is very strategically important to many countries. And so the concern about not gaining access to the Persian Gulf is causing South Korea to come to Baku and try to engage in more deeper strategic cooperation with Azerbaijan as well as Japan. So, and in fact, you're starting to see even now there's going to be new nonstop plane flights between Tbilisi, Georgia, and Shanghai. So the air traffic, the economic engagement in the region is really making Azerbaijan the centerpiece of this. So again, what you're talking about with the European Union engagement is a reflection of the accelerated activity of engagement in the region caused by the Gulf War, which means long term, I think this is going to be increased sustained attention to the Caspian energy basin.
So, Mr. Howard, indeed, that's very interesting, and I'm more than sure that we will continue discussing this topic from all possible perspectives. But as for now, unfortunately, we are running out of time. I thank you for joining our program today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. That's all for this episode of Inside Politics. I appreciate our guest for sharing his valuable insights. We will continue to follow developments around Azerbaijan and the European Union closely. Stay with A News, and I see you next time.